All right, let's get this day started. So, World of Warcraft just released a new video called Raid, Dungeons, PvP, and Delves: The War Within. So, I would like to take a look at that. This is part of the WoW cast, I believe. Let's have a look. Let's see what's going on. You think Ret sucks in the War Within? Bro, I've accidentally been 2200 MMR.
Welcome to a special edition of WoWcast, and thank you so much for joining us.
Linksy!
Launch is right around the corner, and today we are joined by a few incredible guests to share how Dungeons, Raids, and PvP has evolved, as well as new features like
Hey, I
Delves
have
and
that guy.
Warbands. Please introduce yourselves.
Look at that.
Hello, I'm Laura Sardinia. I'm lead UX designer
Hi, Laura.
in WoW team.
Hey, I'm Morgan Day, one of the associate game directors
Sup,
on
Morgan?
World of Warcraft.
And I'm John Mark Hempel. I'm a lead gameplay engineer.
John
on
Mark
World of
Hempel.
Warcraft.
What's up,
How
man?
has the team been approaching what's
I feel like
great
his
to
shirt
play
almost
the
has like
max
the
level
same
of
color
War
scheme as
Within?
this stuff.
As we've been talking about, the content
background.
that players will be experiencing once they reach the end game, there's really been three main
the
pillars
blue.
we've been focusing on. The first is variety.
Pink
We want to make
purple.
sure that there's
Yeah.
all kinds of activities for you to do, whether it be in the outdoor world or with some of our new features like
cool.
Delves that are really going to add some new variety.
She got
for those
engaged? She
players.
sure did.
Additionally, we really want to focus
Very exciting.
on progression
Hold
and
on.
giving
Oh, dang, we're making sales. Hold on. Hold on, pause. Pause. Which one? Hold up. 60C. Hold up. Is that the one you wanted? Faceted fossil? Okay. Thank you. Catch you later, brother. Alright. She sure did get engaged. Very happy for them.
players new
Alright.
challenges to try to overcome in
Continue.
the game. And finally, the story and making sure that that
Continue.
narrative is front and center. Now, whether that's tied into some of these features and some of the content that we built there, or maybe it's focused on the end game campaign that is going to be built out as players progress as well.
I'm so excited
Something
for the
that
solo
I think
content,
is gonna
actually.
be really transformative, and I'm excited about for the War Within is one of our major features, warbands. If you aren't familiar, this is a feature that really ties all your characters together, and really this is our opportunity to make sure that we're really respecting the time of the player behind the keyboard and not constantly asking you to, maybe re-earn something on one character that you've already earned on another one. That's all changing with the War Within, which
cool.
is really exciting.
Yep.
John Mark, can you tell us more about the significant undertakings that Warbands is about?
Yeah, it's no easy task to reimagine in a modern context what we've done over the past 20 years. I think, Morgan, at BlizzCon, you called this several features in a trench coat.
Yeah.
And it's very true. In a nutshell,
funny.
it's really a philosophical shift in how we approach the game. Instead of being from a character focus, we're taking a step back and approaching it more from what the players accomplished over the entire time that they've played the game. Historically, we've added
That's
on
cool.
pieces to individual systems from the engineering side to support features going into expansions. But if we could wave a magic wand and go back 20 years ago, knowing where we're headed today, likely we would have organized those things very differently from an engineering perspective.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I really feel like this is easily one of the largest undertakings that our engineering team has had to, develop for an expansion. We always used to look at, updates to future patches where like, let's make this a little bit easier for your ult to catch up or earn some progression there. Where now that is something that we're really architecting from the forefront and really beginning the conversation with that.
Yeah, I feel like they're taking some inspiration from Lost Ark a little bit. Even like they're respecting players' time. That was like a lot of the what like Stoops was saying about Lost Ark before it came out with the warband thing, which is very, very cool. That's all you can hear, Grum? Yeah, you need to work on that, bro. You've got yourself cooked, bro. You got to work on that.
I think when it's all said and done,
Bro, if
every
I keep
engineering
looking at this John Mark guy out of the corner of my eye. He
looks.
looks like I
So
keep
what
seeing
value
Zaryu
do
with like the
warbands
facial
bring?
hair.
It's all about being able to transfer stuff between your characters.
If they're talking about system designs and warbands, and that's all you can think of, it is like you have gotten yourself all worked up, man. You gotta retune your brain, get off the internet for a little while.
If you have items that you want to send from one character to the other, you just put it
Work
in the
on that
warband
before the
bank.
expansion comes
If
out.
you have currency that you want to send from one character to the other,
Yeah.
you can just grab it directly from
We gotta see if
all
we
the
can send
characters that are
honor.
on your account. Or if you're a druid and you're going through
That'd
one
be
of
cool.
the old raids and you get a piece of plate gear, your warrior can just equip it.
Yeah, one of the things I love about it is
Interesting.
the shared renown, right? Like there's so much reputation that I'm gaining.
Well, are people gonna be trying to like yoink gear for their warband now? That would be kind of annoying to me if like somebody's like they need rolled on like the plate gear or something. I don't think loot works like that anymore. But yeah. Somebody like tries to yoink the plate gear. It's like, oh, it's for my warband guy. I have a warrior alt. Let me yoink that. But for transmog, like if you're running raids on your own, it makes sense, right? But yeah.
Across my characters that will all be combined and consolidated on one account-wide reputation there. There's a lot of fun stuff that,
cool.
that also enables when it comes to like trying to find, you know, more variety in the way I approach the game. For instance, I was leveling, I think, my second character on the beta recently, and I made sure to go out and turn warband questing on so that I saw all the quests that I already completed. It's a little bit less opaque, so it's kind of transparent. And that way you know, like, okay, I've done that quest on one of my other characters. So I can kind of cherry pick all the reputation from quests that I haven't completed yet. Something else when it comes to, you know, maybe gearing that new character, there's actually a new type of item called Warbound Until Equipped, or WOO. This is a new item that will drop in all kinds of endgame content, including things like Mythic Plus and raids, where these will be bonus drops, where they'll drop slightly lower item level where you might have earned that reward, and then you can put that in your bank or send it to one of your alts, and actually, once you equip it on one of your characters, then it will bind to that character. So the fact that it binds to the warband means we can be really generous with that gear as we're dropping for alts.
I imagine.
Right. Yeah, they don't, it's just personal loot now, so it's not that big of a deal. But they're saying like you'll just get random extra bonus loot drops, like just kind of random, like almost like it would be like picking up a green, and it just can go into your warband. That's kind of cool. You get just like extra loot for your warband. I think that's what they just said. That's kind of interesting. I'll look at that again.
Quests that I haven't completed yet. Something else when it comes to, you know, maybe gearing that new character.
It's pretty neat.
There's actually a new type of item called Warbound Until Equipped, or WOO. This is a new item that will drop in all kinds of endgame content, including things like Mythic Plus and raids, where these will be bonus drops. Where
just bonus drops.
Slightly lower item level where you might have earned that
get more
reward,
gear.
and then you can put that in your bank or send it to one of your alts, and actually, once you equip it on one of your characters, then it will bind to that character. So
that's kind of interesting.
The fact that it binds to the warband means we can be really generous with that gear as we're dropping for alts.
I imagine as part of this overhaul that it's led to some unique challenges with the UI.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. UI revamp continues, and Warbands was a great opportunity for us to revamp the character select. Last time we did a big entry screen update was during Shadowlands. So with Warbands, we did a whole big user experience revamp there. We kept the right side list, but now you can drag and drop much easier your characters, and we have a favorite section there, which is really cool because they're all cross-helm characters that you can have.
I think this is really cool. I would like the characters to do like a little bit more, like in Lost Ark, they're like interacting with the background a little bit more, and they'll probably do that eventually. I think it would also be cool to like be able to change your background, like Lost Ark does again, right? But I also, I do kind of like it when you can just like highlight one character, like if you could click on them and it might like zoom in on them, if there's like a button to do that where you could like zoom in and see that one character, because I think it's kind of cool to see like your one character the way the character select screen was, but have it as like an option, right? I think it's kind of neat.
So you don't need to be back and forth choosing characters. They're all going to be there for you very, very easy.
This is cool,
and
though.
Also
something
the
to build
tooltips
on.
are all new. Now you just mouse over,
more of a yes
and it's all there for you. So pretty great improvements overall.
Whatever, right?
And also the new bank for your warband character. So a lot of good improvements that we wanted to make sure it feels natural to players and it just feels great. That's what a good UI should be. You know, so yeah, that's what we're looking for.
There's a lot of functionality out of that too. Like you can craft straight out of your warband bank. So you can just dump all that stuff in your warband bank, and you know, one of your other characters who might be able to use that profession stuff will then be able to access it much more quickly. You don't have to mail it around, and you know, it's really looking to streamline a lot of those experiences.
So you can have like a farming alt.
Mythic Plus
all they do is farm.
Dungeons.
All they do is farm, and then you have like crafter alts who just do all the crafting, but you just chuck it in the warband, and then crafts from the warband bank. That's really neat. I like that.
Any kind of activity that requires a group. We also revamped that left panel, the little ear pane that you push it out. You can now apply raid markers much easier. You can also assign different folks in your group to do so, which before wasn't that easy. And also you can change very easily as well the difficulty of the instance.
Cool.
One of the other things I love that we added is hubs, right? So on the main map, there's often, as you are progressing in the end game, there's all kinds of content that might be really consolidated in one area, and sometimes it's like, oh, there's so much stuff here, and it makes the map feel like it might have a little bit of clutter on it. So we now have a way to kind of consolidate some of that.
The hubs, as Morgan was explaining, when you get in the War Within, you're gonna see this castle city icon that we're gonna have in each zone. And Dornagal is the biggest one. When you click on it, you can see
Looks
the city
nice.
map. And one of the technologies that we wanna add, the hub gonna prioritize for you what is the most important content for you to do. Of course, you can choose to do something else, but we wanna clean up the surroundings of hubs in main cities. So that's the kind of tech that we're looking into UI as well, and we want to evolve and get players' feedback. Also for the end.
So I try to think of this not only as someone who plays WoW a lot, but like I try to think of this as like a new player. Like when I'm going and playing other MMOs, like I'm brand spanking new, just checking it out for the first time. Like I kind of want to have that in mind for when people are playing WoW. So I think that kind of thing will be super helpful, because if things get real cluttered, it can be overwhelming, 100%. So I like that they're thinking that way with this. I think these are a lot of like heads up good changes.
In-game,
They
we
think?
have a new type of quest that's called meta quests, but those are end-game important repeatable quests, and then they are the classic exclamation mark, above the NPC heads.
They edited that
but it's
in.
blue because
Nice.
it reminds of the daily,
Nice.
the old dailies. But you're gonna have spikes around it, so you know that's like, oh, I should check this out. Yeah. So
Okay.
the hub when there's something available as a meta quest for that week, the hub will show that to players, so you know that's something that you should do. If you don't have too much time, you probably should prioritize those, because they give very, very good in-game rewards.
That's good to
So
know.
that's the kind of technology
Remember
that
that.
UI is trying to help players.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
You might be coming back, or you're veteran players, or you just want to, do the easiest thing for the week, and that's going to be out there on the map for you, so you don't have to go back to the icon soup.
Are there any extra quality of life improvements to the UI?
Sure, I've seen a lot of the community very happy about the search bars. So we
Search
keep
bars are good.
adding those. With Warbands, we have a search bar there as well. In Dragonfly, we had the search in the options menu.
Very good.
Professions, of course, if you're searching for
Very
something
good.
specific. Bags, we added that in Dragonfly, and the talents. But now, the spellbook is getting a whole revamp, and it's
showing
so
off
good
warrior
to have
stuff.
a search
It's
bar
good.
there. The
Colossus
spellbook is
arms,
beautiful.
nice.
Now, like you can have 2 pages, and that way you don't have to paginate as much. But if you really prefer one pane, there is an icon at the top, which is the collapsed one.
Ah.
It comes back to the original classic size. So we know some players really love that, and
Okay.
we want to make sure that everyone is happy with the new spellbook.
I've noticed in
Having the
pre-patch
time
it's kinda, like, does that
to do all that stuff
sometimes.
makes us so happy, because we
I think-
want to
think it's a
keep
bug.
the classic WoW look, even though it looks modern, but it still feel WoW, and that's really
We don't have to keep the classic WoW look. That's okay. But I understand. They want it to feel like WoW. And when I think of the 30-second nerf to kidney, nerf it to the ground, bro.
important for us.
F kidney shot.
Morgan, earlier you mentioned you want to empower players to play the way they want to play. How is that going to be approached in the new feature Delves?
Yeah, so like we've
Delves
discussed,
seem
Delves
very
are
interesting to
really
me.
bite-sized content, really targeted on those players who love progression in the outdoor world and maybe aren't so excited about going into group content or queued content. Something
Mm-hmm.
that they gave us feedback on is that they really wish that there was a way for these to be a bit more difficult and maybe
Yep.
give them a bit of a challenge
agree.
too. Delves, while
Need,
the
like, more
rewards might
mobs.
end at tier 8, so that the item level that you're getting stops there, the difficulty tier goes to 11.
Oh,
and
snap.
when you reach that difficulty, there will be a hard mode version of Zekfir, which for people who might be familiar with some of those solo challenges like the Mage Tower of the past, this will be a new solo challenge for players to really, try to tackle over time. And we imagine this is something that
Cool.
will take quite a bit of
I love
effort
that.
and, progression to get to the point where you'll be able to defeat Zekfir at that difficulty. And waiting for you, if you're able to do that, is a really awesome, unique, kind of voided out version of that customizable delve mount that you're going to be rewarded with very early on in your delve progression.
Cool.
Can you talk about the different varieties of Delves?
Yeah, so with delves, there's 13 delves in
Really?
total.
13,
and something
huh?
that we really wanted to focus on was
Nice.
to make sure that each delve had multiple variants, right? So while there's 12 delves that you'll experience and be sent to,
These reminded me
a
of,
couple in each zone.
Wayfinder
Every time you
dungeons.
zone in, we wanted to make sure that it wasn't just some small tweaks here and there, like, the spawning changed a little bit, or maybe there's some traps that look a little bit different. The actual objectives are changing. Sometimes the way you traverse through the delve completely changes. Maybe you're going to start at the end of the delve this time and work your way backwards. So we wanted to make sure that these different variants were really distinct with each new delve. And we also wanted to make sure that, like I said earlier, with progression to be a large part of this. So there's a couple different aspects of that. For one, the Great Vault, which is something that a lot of our raid and PvP and Mythic Plus players are familiar with.
Yep, no more PvP
is going to
though.
get an outdoor row with the War Within. So
and delves count as world?
That comes from delves. We wanted to make sure that while it was bite-sized content, that doesn't mean it can't be really rewarding, right? So if you're able to work your way up and defeat level 8, which is where the loot kind of caps out at, your Great Vault will actually reward you with items that are higher item level than you would get out of like a Mythic plus 10 end of run chest. So it's really good loot.
Yeah, it's really
and
rewarding.
We want to make sure that you're using that gear that you're in along the way to work through the different delve tiers and finally take the fight to Zekvir.
That's usually like a heroic eye level. So you get like some good loot weekly as like just an option at least. That's interesting. What is the video you're watching? They just released it today, yeah, an hour ago. Raid, dungeons, PvP, and delves, the War Within. So it's just like a little like WoW cast kind of thing, just going over some of the War Within content. It looks like some of the changes and stuff. I don't think they're going into like class changes, right? They're just sort of like content that we can be excited about.
And by extension, Xalatath as well, which also gets us into feeling like delves should be a big part of our endgame story as well, and making sure that they're paying into this narrative of Xalatath and all of our epic heroes that we're experiencing along the way. Something else that we added in the UI for delves is, there's now a whole tab that exists for delves that will exist down with the adventure journal, where you can see Mythic Plus and see your seasonal journey there. Now when you go to the delves tab, you can find the Great Vault
leveling up
there.
your guys, I think kind of
You can
cool.
also see Bran, who's your companion. You can change his spec and see kind of the progression there. So lots of fun UI additions and improvements that have made delves that much more fun.
The team has also made
see like
significant
this kind of thing
changes
for
to
the
Mythic
follower
Plus
dungeons.
Can you elaborate more on that?
They could like level up and gear
so
up.
actually, not only is Mythic Plus getting some changes, but also the core progression of dungeons is shifted quite a bit. So if you've been playing Dragonflight Season 4, you might have seen that Mythic 0 has actually gotten quite the facelift. Something that we have noticed in the past is Mythic 0 was great for like 2 weeks of an expansion, and then nobody really needed to do it anymore because they had just progressed into Mythic Plus.
What was this graph?
With the War Within facelift, something that we have.
Oh, they just like kind of condensed it, right?
Noticed in the past is Mythic 0 was great for like 2 weeks of an expansion, and then nobody really needed to do it anymore because they had just progressed into Mythic Plus. So with the War Within, a Mythic 0 will be the equivalent of what, if you haven't played since Shadowlands, a Mythic 10 might have been. So it's quite difficult and will be equally as rewarding.
What?
But, we wanted to capture that audience of people who loved that feeling of the mega dungeons where
Maybe I don't remember what
there's
Mythic 10
still
was back in
progression, but also
Shadowlands.
there's no timer, right? So if that was something that maybe put you off from Mythic Plus, this is something that you can
I think you
still
meant a
do with your
Shadowlands
friends,
10.
and hey, you can run AFK if you need to in the middle of these. But for Mythic Plus itself, we really took a huge step back and wanted to do a major affix refresh. We have gone through multiple iterations of that on the beta. We got a lot of feedback from our first iteration of it and have really pivoted significantly since then.
It was kind of neat because we had some players that said, we really like the direction of these affixes, these I don't know about, and then other players that felt the exact opposite. I'm not sure.
So ain't nobody got time for Mythic Plus. I think Mythic Plus is probably the most popular content in WoW endgame wise. Cassius, thank you so much, man. Big flex on 31 months, man. Thank you. Yeah, I don't remember what Shadowlands Mythic Plus were like. But thank you, Cassius. Welcome back, man. Pumping us up. Doing good, dude. Checking out some of the War Within content. All this stuff looks really cool so far.
Sure about these, but I really like this direction. And really what it helped us crystallize was we had multiple groups of players that wanted different challenges out of the same Mythic Plus system.
Yeah.
Historically, affixes have been a one-size-fits-all approach to challenge and variety. But it was kind of a cool moment. Morgan came to the gameplay engineering team and was like,
getting Miguel going too, man. Thank you, dude, for the Prime Big Flex for you, pumping us up as well.
Target different
Thank you,
level
man.
ranges rather than applying to the entirety of Mythic Plus. And the design solution ended up being pretty elegant for engineering to implement. It was like this beautiful confluence of events where we were able to turn this around within, I don't know, 2 weeks or something like that, and get the full revamped system back on the beta for players to test.
Yeah, it was.
No, I do Mythic Plus sometimes. It's just like, if Mythic Plus rewards me with something that I needed for PvP, I'll definitely do it. I mean, we did Mythic Pluses a fair amount, even just last season, to get all my little crests and stuff to upgrade my gear. So yeah, I'll do Mythic Plus. I'll do PvE as long as it, you know, gives me some kind of gains in PvP.
It's really awesome to see
Indeed.
kind of that all come together so quickly. So, you know, what players I've seen now and what will be going
Kinda fun.
live with The War Within Season 1 is a version where Xalatath actually plays a major role in the affixes.
That's
you know,
cool.
From the beginning up until level 12.
That's cool.
And
12?
it's very much one of the goals we had to make sure that the story plays a part in all of our endgame content. So we really wanted to kind of achieve that by having her kind of show up in
I do think
your
that's cool.
Mythic Plus dungeon and maybe throw some spells at you and mess with you.
You know, we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of World of Warcraft this year.
I like for that,
and if you're
like,
coming
big
back
bad
from
to be,
a breaker,
like,
if you're a completely new player,
present,
just
you know?
learning the dungeons can be daunting on top of affixes and things like that. So this sort of granular way that affixes apply challenges to the dungeons allows players to engage with them in the way that they want to be challenged.
Something that we added in
Cool.
Dragonflight, which is the follower dungeons, are
Yeah,
great for
what's
that.
up with this?
Because you can have NPC companions, which are not real players, playing with you through the dungeon. And let's say you just changed to a new spec, you want to be a healer now. And I really want to try that first before really going to a dungeon with new players.
We know that players in dungeons often are afraid of trying out new specs. And with hero talents, there's different flavors of new combat for people to try out. And follower dungeons provide a way for you to just go in and feel it out and not be too concerned about how you're impacting other people.
I think this system would actually be really cool if you could like gear up your followers and like level them up, you know, like maybe you have like a couple different talent options that you could give to them. I think they could expand on this quite a bit. That would actually be neat. But right now it's just kind of like a new player, have an experience in the dungeons that's not stressful kind of thing, which makes sense. I like that they have this. That was one of the pieces of feedback that I provided a long time ago with WoW, is that all these other games like have like bot mode to like try new hero in League of Legends and with bots, or Heroes of the Storm, or play against, you know, bots in StarCraft while you're learning. And WoW doesn't really have that. But this kind of thing allows you to just like, one, the delves are solo content. You just go in there and just delve on your own, or this, where you can learn dungeons with AI, where it's like, nobody's gonna get mad at you, you know? You can just kind of chill, right? I like that.
Approachability has been mentioned a few times. How are we
good.
applying that to PvP?
Yeah, there's actually a new feature that I am personally going to play quite a bit, where you're going to be able to experience essentially rated battlegrounds. It's called Rated Battleground Blitz.
Right, that's what we've been playing.
Which is a smaller number of players.
It's gonna be
and
great.
You'll be able to earn
It's already been
conquest
awesome.
and
Knockdown
all the
Heroic Leap,
awesome
who's that?
rated PvP
What's that
rewards
from?
while playing Battlegrounds. Because, you know, we know there's a ton of people who love Battlegrounds.
Going
but,
ham.
You know, the jump into arenas sometimes might be a little bit scary. That is
Yeah.
a much more smaller experience, and, you know, each little mistake counts for a lot when you're in an arena. Where in a battleground, you know, there's a lot more going on. Usually they last longer. There's objectives.
Yeah, I
so
think
we
this would be
really are
really
excited
good.
about that new feature.
It's already been
I
really
know
fun.
I have done a ton of, I know the community calls them YOLO RBGs, where you
Oh.
can just do RBGs, don't worry about voice chat, you just kind of go in and play. I
Yeah.
always love running into those, so having this feature
This might
will
hurt
kinda
that
take
bracket a
place
little
for me,
bit,
so I'll be able
but-
to earn my conquest early on in the season.
I think it'll be good.
Now, I know we mentioned the Great Vault quite a bit earlier when we were discussing this. We actually got a lot of
It'd be great.
feedback from our PvP players that they don't love having to have the Great Vault be such a big part of their itemization and gearing journey. Not only does it add some potential randomization, right? Like
Smoked.
maybe first week of the season you got a weapon and I don't, and that
Yeah.
you know kind of can create some imbalance there.
Yeah.
But also, like we're talking about accessibility, it can also cause problems where, you know, maybe you're a couple weeks into the season and you just now want to get into PvP, but there's no catch up on the Great Vault. So you can feel like you're permanently behind on PvP, and it's maybe
Yeah.
the barrier to entry is a little too high for you to get into that. So not
are good
having
changes.
that in the Great Vault
Those are good
actually
changes.
solves a lot of problems for us, giving players more agency in how they're rewarded, and also we have much stronger catch-up on things like our conquest currency for PvP players. So we think that will be a big step forward for that audience, and hopefully, you know, inspire some people to check out PvP in the War Within.
I think it will.
Raiding is an integral part of endgame. How is the team approaching raids this
That's
year?
good stuff.
Yeah, so Nerebar
PvP.
Palace is going to be an epic experience. You know, Nerubians galore in there. And one of the cool new features that we're introducing with War Within is to play through the raid, or at least
Flying
experience
spiders.
the ending with Queen Ansarak solo. So
That
we
looks
wanted
cool.
to make sure that for people who were really engaged in that story at the end game, but maybe didn't want to go into queued content or don't have a whole group to go into the raid with, they'll still be able to see that epic finale. Something else that I think is really fun, there's a lot of variety in
You can
play.
do like a
Approaching
solo raid
raids this
encounter?
year.
Yeah, so
for, like, the
Nerebar
storyline?
Palace is going to be an epic
actually kinda neat.
experience. You know,
Yeah.
Nerubians galore in there.
They really are looking
and
out for, like, the
one
solo
of the
player,
cool new features that we're introducing
think.
with War Within is to play through the raid, or at least experience the ending with Queen Ansarak solo. So we
Interesting.
wanted to make sure that for people who were really
This has already been one of the things that I noticed and I've been highlighting a lot is that they're really focusing on like, one, the alts and warband stuff, that's great, but yeah, like really making the game accessible and approachable for people who are solo players for whatever reason, whether it's they just like to play the games on their own or they don't have like their schedule or whatever. That's very cool. That's very cool.
engaged in that story at the end game, but maybe didn't want to go into queued content or don't have a whole group to go into the raid with, they'll still be able to see that epic finale. Something else that I think is really fun, there's a lot of variety in player skill across all of our player types in the game, and we have a lot of difficulties for them. But even within a single raid, there can be a lot of, you know, progression that you're experiencing. And with Dragonflight, we added a new item upgrade system where you could upgrade some of your gear. But some players also
I
found
like that
that
stuff,
they might
though,
not be
but-
able to quite get over that hurdle on one of the, maybe the end boss or something that comes as the penultimate boss. So we're adding a new quest that will unlock about a month into the War Within, that every week you'll get a little bit more powerful. It's kind of reminiscent of like Hellscream's war song back in Icecrown Citadel, but you'll have to kind of earn your way through that progression. So not only is there awesome gear to be earned as you progress through the raid, but we wanted to make sure that for people who might take a little bit longer, there's some more progression along with just the gear.
That buff's applied throughout your warband, right? It's not just on the character.
Yeah, that's another really fun thing. Again, like that was something that maybe would have just been applied to a single character.
Do you have to earn this, or is it just like every week you just you know they just nerf the content? I feel like the War Within is like such like a like an aging player base expansion. Like it's fine. Like I like it. I like the vibe that they're going for, but it just sounds like such like an aging player base expansion. It's like, yeah, you know what? Don't worry about like gearing up your alts. So just sort of like give them some gear. You don't have to worry about doing like multiple grinds on your characters. Like that's all good stuff. It's like that makes sense. That's cool. And it's like, yeah, so you know, any kind of stuff like, yeah, don't worry about like having to have like a team. You can just like solo queue your PvE, solo queue your PvP. Just like log in and play whenever you want on your schedule, you know, it's all good. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds cool. And it's like, oh, and we're gonna just progressively nerf the raids every week. So like if you guys are like struggling through normal because you guys are all just like done dads, just like, you know, just cooked at the game, washed up, you'll still get a little easier every week. Like you got this. You know, it's like it's kind of like a half of a joke that it's like, you know, but I mean, I think it's fine. I think it's fine. They're just done dads, you know. I like it. And Darkbeard, thanks so much, man. Big flicks to the 19 months. It's funny, but it's also considerate and respectful, you know. Like it's cool, but I do think it's kind of funny. There's definitely some jokes to be made. I think people might give him a hard time for some of this stuff, but I think it makes a lot of sense, and it is very respectful to the player base. But this is funny. I guess you can opt to not do it. Is that true? I wonder.
Character, but in War Within, that buff is across my whole warband.
That's kind of funny though.
While we are talking about raids, I would love to bring it up, the self-highlight option, which I'm a huge fan.
I think we turned that
you
one
can
on.
highlight yourself and persist that. But now you can even have an icon on your head that nobody can take from you. So that is awesome. You know,
Star
for
of the
players
show.
I'm included. I cannot
Caramog,
find
the
myself
Tauren
in
Rogue.
the whole chaos of a raid boss or even Mythic Plus. There is also another option that's called Show Silhouette when Obscured.
Yeah.
If you have that on, there is a silhouette of your character.
That's nice.
between that pillar, let's say it's a pillar, so you see your character there. It
I always
says,
call those like the flag boss or the tree boss, where it's like, oh, the
Yes.
flag is in my camera. That's really cool, Laura, and I love that. And you know, not only those cool options, but there's so much more to explore in the War Within, and I'm really excited for our players to come on this journey with us. Both players who have been with us all through Dragonflight, as well as players who might be returning.
Yeah, I think that's great. Czar was giving this video a hard time because he was comparing it to Classic. Czar's a big Classic gamer, and there are some things that Modern WoW does that Classic players, I think Classic players may value certain things that Modern WoW is moving away from. Like with Classic, a lot of players might respect and enjoy that. Like you have to have, 40 people or whatever online, ready to go, who've done all their homework every single raid. Like, or, everything has to kind of take a long time to get done, and that's not the way that Modern WoW is going. And it's cool that you have both. Maybe I'll have to watch Zaryu's reaction to it, because I'm not a big Classic guy, He said as a Classic is hard. The content itself might not be hard, but just having to get everybody organized is like a lot, right? So like if your schedule is such that you can't raid at a certain time, or you can't, you can't be online for me, like there's a period of time recently where I'm just not going to be able to be on at night, and so I can't really interact with high-rated PvP that much. And so some people might not be able to interact with PvP at all, because they don't want to wait in long solo shuffle queues. Like that's kind of how I am. Like I don't really feel like sitting in shuffle all day long, that having be the only PvP that I do. But if I can log in early morning and just have BGs, like solo BGs to do, that's pretty dang fun. And it also makes those solo shuffle queues more manageable, because you do probably like 1 or 2 solo BGs in between a shuffle queue. So I don't know, man. It may, some of these things that are like making the game more approachable to players with different amounts of time, different sort of skill sets, different interests in the game, whether they want to do all the solo content or whatever, versus Classic, which is like super organized. Like you have to have your people around, or you're probably not gonna be able to like even raid. It's just a different sort of thing, and different preferences will definitely, have different responses to these changes they're making. But I think overall, as someone who kind of is like like a done dad at this point, it's nice for me to be able to log in and have stuff to do on my own whenever. Like if I want to log in and play the game and just do stuff and chill, that's great. And then I can wait for my arena teammates to come online. I can wait for my Mythic Plus people to come online. I can, either have a raid that I raid with at a certain time, or I could just pug or whatever. But I think having WoW be a game that you can just like log into and just have stuff to do solo that actually helps you improve your character's power, helps you progress, is actually awesome. It's really, really good. So I joke about me being a done dad. I mean, I still play WoW and I still, really enjoy it. But it's cool that WoW is going to sort of offer you the option to play it on your own whenever and still like make progress, so that like if you did want to go raid, you have the gear from Delves, right? If you do want to go raid, you have the knowledge of like what the raid looks like. Like you've been in the raid, maybe you've seen some mechanics and you've done that solo, right? And like, so you can like practice a little bit, and you can actually have your character be up to par for if you did want to enter into arenas. You actually have conquest gear from doing solo BGs or solo arenas, so like you're ready to go. Like I think it's a really good thing.
Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you enjoyed
job,
this
guys.
look into endgame content, and we look
Looks
forward
great.
to seeing you in Kazalgar.
Nice. Cool. Excited for that. Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to watch Zara's good, because I'm really not a Classic guy. I mean, I knew that immediately from playing like Classic vanilla. Like it was fun. It was cool to be part of that experience again, the original Classic re-release, but like that's not my jam. But some people love it. Like that's where they started playing WoW. That's their thing. Like I started playing WoW in Cataclysm, so some people consider WoW to already have becoming more modern in Cata. And my experience with Classic WoW is I have enjoyed it. I have enjoyed every next expansion of Classic more than I have enjoyed the past. And I enjoy like Cata more than all of them by a lot. But I enjoy modern WoW more than any of the Classic iterations that I've played too. So that's kind of like my perspective on it, but I absolutely can imagine people who like Classic seeing a lot of these things they're doing to WoW and coming at it with a very like critical response of like, oh, they're making it so that, none of the group content matters anymore. They're making it so like the raids get easier and stuff. And it's like, I mean, if you want WoW to be this like sort of like giga hardcore game that takes, an immense amount of organization to succeed at, and it requires everybody to be on a schedule that, or they can't participate. I mean, that's a type of game that you can have respect for, and that's a type of game that you can look back on and be like, man, remember when WoW was like that? And a lot of people still look at that as like saying that's how WoW should be. But I think that what ends up happening is if you have the game like that, if you're making it so limited in terms of how people can interact with it, you have a game that doesn't grow over time, that falls off over time, and all you have is an extremely passionate but very small player base who's still interested in participating in it. And I don't think that's a good way to have the game grow. And it's not even like a cynical, like they're just making the game catering to only casuals just to sell more copies. And it's like, okay, so you can look at it like super cynically that way, but you can also say that exact same thing as like, okay, they're making the game available to more people so that more people can play it and the game can be healthy and good. While not really, I don't think any of these changes really necessarily take away from the people who want to like giga sweat, right? It doesn't take away anything. I think that there's potentially this situation where, okay, so some people, and I've seen this with like solo shuffle, sometimes a healer, instead of being like wanting to do threes, it's like, hey dude, you want to do threes? Like, no, I'm just going to shuffle and chill. It's like, okay, cool. But maybe the person's like at least playing the game instead of like just not playing the game at all. So I don't know. I think it's good. I think it's good. And I think that creating content in the game for that more people can participate in is good. So I think that like back in the day, even like myself, I'd be like, oh, they're catering to casuals. So I can understand that like perspective. But as someone who's been playing the game for a long, long time and understands that most people who play games, let alone play World of Warcraft, are noobs, are casuals, are just like logging in to just play the game a little bit, it's actually a really good thing. Because the best thing you can do for WoW across the board isn't nerfing rogues or doing whatever. I mean, actually, nerfing rogues is a pretty good call across the boards. They should continue to do that. But it's make the game accessible for more people. Make the game fun for more people so that more people play. So things like solo queue RBGs is going to get a lot of people playing the bracket. It's going to get a lot of people playing PvP. It's really, really good. And so removing barriers to entry, making the game more accessible on people's different schedules, on people's different content preferences, making it more accessible across your whole like warband. All of these things are really, really good. It does make WoW less of an inapproachable, hardcore game, but again, making the game more unapproachable and more hardcore drives people away, right? Makes the game not continue to live and breathe and succeed for the long haul. And I think that's what Blizzard's trying to do. I think for a long time, Blizzard was coming out with all these other IPs, new games, and trying to promote those, and those were fun, like, but I think what's happening now is that a lot of those IPs have sort of had their time, and then here comes freaking World of Warcraft, just standing the goddamn test of time, They've been expanding on WoW, and they're like, I mean, I guess WoW is still kicking butt. Let's keep hammering on it. Let's keep making WoW grow. So I think what we're into this like really like second renaissance of WoW now, where we have all the classic iterations for the classic dudes, and then we have WoW, modern WoW, sort of really embracing its inclusive approach and making content for just about everybody, right? I think that's awesome. I think it's awesome, and this is very, very exciting to me. And I am somebody who plays like my favorite version of WoW is like Arena, like high-rated Arena, which is a very small percentage of people. And I like games like Path of Exile, right? Path of Exile is a game that I hear so many people when I'm playing Path of Exile be like, this game looks like fun, but it's like super intimidating to get into as a new player. And so like they don't, like, it's just not that popular compared to something like Diablo 4, right? And Diablo 4, for as much guff as people give it, it's probably like, it is absolutely a way more approachable game, and it's probably more people play this than Path of Exile, right? Because it is a game that's like, it's not that hard to get into. You just get in there, kill mobs, become OP, just blast everything, and people can, play it, and there's not really much barrier to entry. So making the game accessible to more people is good. If you want to call that catering to casuals, fair enough. But one of the things that is cool about WoW is, besides the fact that maybe sometimes people will do the solo brackets instead of queuing normal Arena or normal BGs, that could take away from the brackets, like how solo shuffle probably hurt the Arena ladder a little bit, but I think it overall helped PvP in WoW, right? So it's not like the fact that you can try these raids out solo or do delves solo is going to be bad for the people who are pushing high rated Mythic Plus or bad for Mythic Raiders. It's just that, like, people are going to be able to play the game, which is just a good thing, right? And so the only thing that it will have negative, again, to reiterate, if I'm trying to like make my point well, is that it's just people aren't going to be able to do both at the same time. People are not going to be both in a delve and in a Mythic Plus at the same time. People are not going to be in a delve or whatever and in a high rated, you know, or Mythic raid, right? But the people who are doing all this high rated stuff, they're probably not really going to be affected negatively by more people playing the game, more people having fun with whatever content they want to do on their own schedule. That's just not a bad thing. It is a good thing. The more people playing the game, the better. And that's just how it works in general, right? Solo show bring back into WoW, yeah. And I think solo RBGs is going to bring people back into WoW. And I think solo delves are going to bring people back into WoW. I think being able to go and see the new raid and its content and the bosses that are in it and literally like the raid environment is just going to bring people back to WoW. It's going to be great. And I think WoW is also not afraid to have itself be like a seasonal game. People might chew through the content a little bit faster this way. They might sort of be able to sort of see the end boss and be like, okay, cool, I've seen the story. I'm going to wait till the next iteration of the story comes out. But I think WoW is also kind of like okay with that. Because people, as long as people keep coming back, you know, it's good. That's good. But I also think that there's just as likely of a chance that if people aren't sort of seeing the end of their progression, it's like, well, I leveled my character, I did all the story quests, I'm never really gonna be able to raid, so I guess I'm just done. Or like that could happen, so they quit. Or what happens now is they have all these different ways, different pathways of progression, and so they can get good gear from delves and power their character up, and they get a vault every week that has like a mythic 10 piece in it or whatever, and they're like, oh snap, so I can like keep doing my delves every week and I can keep getting better and better gear. And then maybe since they actually feel like their character is pretty jacked, they're not scared to go and like join raids and stuff. So it's actually, I think it's way more positive than any sort of negativity that can come out of it. But I think people find ways to be negative, but just in general, I think it's way better. So yeah, that's very exciting. That's good stuff. We'll keep talking about it, but yeah, I'm excited. That looks great.